Hi everyone, and welcome to our video on graphing solutions to absolute value equations. Now, we worked on this a little bit before we had left school, but I don't know how much. That's pretty long ago, so I'm not sure how much you're going to recall, but this should at least look somewhat familiar. So let's take a look at our first example. The problem says, and really what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for x, and graph solutions. So that will be for each problem. I'm going to solve for the variable, graph the solution. So really what I'm asking guys is, what number can go in here, granny style, so that when I take that number and subtract 6, and then take the absolute value of whatever I get 4. And just to remind you, the absolute value just means whatever number ends up in here, right? I want its distance from 0 to be equal to 4 units. That's all that means. This, guys, this whole package, right? All of this, its distance from 0 must be 4 units away. Exactly 4 units. So, I don't know. Boy, we haven't done granny style in a while. Let's give it a whirl. Can you guys just think? Like, what would x, can you think of one? I can tell you there's 2 answers, but if you showed this to Granny and said, Granny, find a number that goes there, that when you subtract 6 from it, its distance from, that number's distance from 0 is 4 units away. Can you think of anything? Shout it at me, even though I won't be able to hear you. Can you see how one of the answers for x could be 10? Because if you put a 10 there, you would have 10 minus 6, absolute value, equals 4. And then, of course, 10 minus 6 is 4. So now you have this. And then you say, well, how far away from 0 is the number 4? Well, it's 4 away, and 4 is equal to 4. So one of my solutions would be 10. Can you think of the other one? There's another number that the x could be besides 10 that will also make this a true statement. Can you think of it? I hope you're thinking maybe 2. Because if I put 2 there, watch what happens. I would have absolute value, 2 minus 6, close it, equals 4. And then 2 minus 6, of course, is negative 4. And negative 4 is also 4 away from 0. It's in the opposite direction, but it's still 4 away. So that's another good answer. So my 2 answers to this problem are right here. And of course, if I was graphing these, which IXL is going to ask you to do, IXL is going to ask you to, take a piece of paper and get these answers. And then they're going to provide you with a number line. And on that number line, they'll have some numbers. Maybe it'll look like this: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or something. They just want you to click here for the 2 and then here for the 10. And once you make those 2 clicks, they're going to know that your work is right, submit, and you should get credit on your SMART score. Okay. Now, for everything we do granny style, I also like to show you the algebra. Maybe you didn't need the algebra for this one because it was pretty simple, but maybe you're going to need the algebra later. So the algebra, and I do believe we looked at this prior to today, you basically, if you think about it, like there are 2 numbers that could be in here. Let me just cover this up with my finger right here, okay? Where my finger is right here. There are 2 numbers that could go in there that have a distance from 0 of 4. Where my finger is, if we had a positive 4, the absolute value of positive 4 is equal to 4. Or my finger here could be negative 4. The absolute value of negative 4 equals 4. So if where my finger is can be, the contents inside here can be either a 4 or a negative 4 to make this statement true, then all I do is set the contents inside x minus 6, it can be 4, or the contents, x minus 6, can be negative 4. These are the two numbers that could be here, like this whole thing can be a 4, and the absolute value of that is 4, or the whole contents could be negative 4, and the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. So I guess the rule will be, if you're solving an absolute value equation, then you just set the contents equal to the positive and the negative of what you see here. Okay, now watch what happens. Once you do that, add that 6 over. You don't have to write it. You can just do it in your head, and look what you get, 10. Add that 6 over here, and look what you get, 2. Same answers, we got granny style, same answers that we graphed, ta-da! So I have 3 more examples, but we'll do them much more quickly because I'm just going to go ahead and use the algebra. You can certainly do them granny style if you prefer it. It'll work. It might just take a little bit longer. So let's go down to number 2, and we'll just use algebra, and that'll make you fly through IXL. Okay, now what I noticed, so I went into IXL as a student, and I kind of looked at the different ways they would present these to you, and what I did see is a lot of times they'll flip it around, which I hate. They'll put the number over here and the absolute value over here, and for I don't know what reason, my brain does not like this. So I have found, when I was doing IXL, I turned this 180, so I'll write it as absolute value a plus 7 equals 12, right? So I know there are 2 numbers that could fit, like, again, here's my finger, right? Finger. The 2 numbers that can fit right here on my fingernail. You could have 12 in there and get 12, or you could have negative 12 and get 12. So the contents of the absolute value must be set equal and figured out to be 12 or negative 12. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to write my a plus 7 could make a 12, or my a plus 7 could make a negative 12. And so I solve. So let's minus 7 minus 7. That's going to give me a equals 5, or minus 7 minus 7, a equals negative 19. That's it. Now remember, on the IXL, you're going to have a number line. And so, you know, negative 19 will be down here somewhere. Just put your dot there. And then somewhere up here, there will be a 5. Put your dot there. Those are your 2 answers. You just fill them in. If you just want to check it real quick, you can go all the way back to the original problem. Let's fill a 5 in. 5 plus 7 is 12. The absolute value of 12 is 12. Now let's fill negative 19 in. Negative 19 plus 7 is negative 12. The absolute value of negative 12 is 12. So we found the magic. We found the 2 values of A that make these contents 12 and negative 12. Both of those numbers have a distance of 0. That is 12. Yay! Okay, 2 to go, just a little extra practice. So what happens if we get one like this? This was another one I saw on IXL. Again, see how what they're doing? They're trying to trick you up. They're trying to like trip you up and be like, oh, it's different. It is not different. All you have to do, see where the equal sign is? If you're like me and you don't like it that way, just take this whole side and put it on the left. So make it absolute value of C plus 50, close it, plus 2, and then your equal sign, and then take the 4 over here. Okay, now you're going to basically, okay, to do my algebra rule, the absolute value bars have to be alone. So before you do any of my steps here, I'd like you to move this 2 over to the other side to get the absolute value alone. So you're going to minus 2, minus 2. So that's going to give you absolute value of C plus 50 equals 4 minus 2 is 2. And now it looks like all the other ones. So sometimes you got to do a little bit upfront work. So we switch sides, make it look better, -2, -2. Now your bars are alone. So now we can see that we want the contents, right? And put my finger, the contents can either be a 2 to make 2 away from 0, or -2 could be 2. So let's set them equal to what they can be. So C plus 50 can be 2, or C plus 50, -2. And we solve. So I'm going to subtract 50 from both sides here. That's going to give me C equals -48, or I'm going to subtract 50 here. C equals, that will be -52. So the number line will be here, and maybe -52 is down here. -48 is about right there. I just plot my points right there, and I'm done. Again, if you want to check it, go all the way back. Okay, back to the original. So let's pop -48 in there. You ready? So -48. So imagine I put that in there granny style. -48 plus 50. That's 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. And 2 plus 2 makes 4. Yay! And then the other one, -52. Okay, so if I put a -52 for C, -52 plus 50 is -2. The absolute value of -2 is 2 plus 2, 4. And that's another smile. So it all works out. And here comes our last one. And this is sort of the last thing I saw as I was creeping toward the 80 SMART score. Sometimes they'll write a problem like this, which is fine. Again, absolute value bars are almost alone, but not quite. So how would we get rid of this pesky little 8 in front? And please don't say distribute. You're not allowed to distribute into absolute value bars. It's not like parentheses, everybody. So you have to get rid of this 8 a different way. So I'm hoping that you're thinking divide both sides by 8. The 8 is being multiplied, and what undoes multiplication is division. So if you divide by 8, these will knock out, and you'll be left with the absolute value of x minus 400 equals 800 divided by 8 is 100. And now you're ready to go. So I need to think of numbers that could replace this x. I mean, right off the bat, I can look at this. Wouldn't 500 work? 500 would probably work because 500 minus 400 is 100. And the absolute value, yep. So like so if you don't need to do all the work, if you could just see it, like I can see x is 500. Can you tell what the other one would be? What else? Because that would be, you can either have 100 in here, or you can have -100 in here. So what value of x would make this -100? Can you see that it would be 300? So if you can see that, you can cruise through this IXL pretty quickly. Just don't forget to plot your dots. Or if you just like the recipe, you set x minus 400 equal to positive 100, or x minus 400 equals -100. Add your 400 over, there is the first answer, or add your 400 over, and there is your second answer. Okay, so real brief, real easy, solving absolute value equations. Just set the contents equal to the positive and the negative of this right side, and you are home free. All right, good luck on your IXL, and thanks for watching.